Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. For those watching on video, yes, another dog has appeared. This is Aspen. She's a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel, and she is parked on the chair in my office as she often does when I'm working. So, welcome to her for those who are watching via video. I think you've now met, if you've watched all of my episodes, I think you've met two of my three dogs. So, at this point, today we are talking about a very important topic, and that is what you should look for in an attorney and the counterpoint to that, what you should avoid. So we're going to dive right in. I have 10. These aren't in any particular order, but I'm going to start with the easier, more straightforward ones and then have a little bit more content. So be sure you listen on the later ones. So please be sure you listen to the whole thing because the easier, more softball things are coming earlier in this list so that I can just get through them quickly for you. And the things that require a little bit more thought are coming later in the list. So very important that you listen to the whole thing. If you or someone you know is looking for an attorney, or if you are an attorney and you're looking to be a better attorney in family law, please take a listen because you want to understand, I think, how to get better and how to pivot in family law as counsel to be the very best person and professional you can be in being part of the solution and not continuing to be part of the problem. Which unfortunately, I've had a lot of experience lately with cases where the attorneys are genuinely part of the problem, a very big part of the problem, so much so that the cases are really sometimes not fixable because the attorney is so entrenched and so unwilling to consider a perspective other than that of that person's client. So I encourage attorneys to listen to this. People who are walking others through divorce or separation or an allocation of parental responsibilities also will get some insight from this to be able to help the people that you love and that you care for so that you can give them some thoughts about how to handle their cases. The real problem, I think, is that we get an echo chamber with friends and family, people who are trying to support someone walking through this. And it can become very jarring for that person to then realize that there is a different perspective. I will just note if you haven't listened to Terry Harrington's episode, which was just released recently, please do, because she mentions there that attorneys really shouldn't be gladiators. They should be peacemakers. And so that's a really important thread that goes through this list that I'm about to give you and informs really, I think, the entire need to transform family law because the problem with family law is that it's set up in a litigious gladiator way and it fosters the destruction of children's well-being and of individual parents and individual parties' well-being because the toxicity is generally not necessary, even in very potentially adversarial cases. Do you feel that the person is going to be clear and transparent? I get called sometimes from people wanting to do consultations who are working with attorneys who have made it very muddy for them. The people don't understand what the process is. They feel like they're in the dark. They feel like no one is explaining it to them. It's all sounding like a foreign language. It feels very unmanageable and stressful for them. A good attorney makes things make sense in a way that is just very clear, transparent, and step by step. It's an overwhelming process, but you should feel like you're being handled in a way that feels comforting to you. And when you talk to that attorney, it should give you some peace or their team really that they're making it make sense and that they have a handle on it. They should be checking in regularly. There shouldn't be really big gaps in time of them communicating with you. You should feel like you're always in the know about what's happening and that there's a plan moving forward. You also, frankly, in today's day and age, should have through the practice management software that the firm uses. For example, I use Clio. They are able to communicate with me and my team simultaneously. It's a very nice sort of instant messaging type approach that allows for everyone to be on the same page and for easy responsiveness that doesn't cost as much as constant phone calls or setting meetings and things like that. Make sure they've also explained the range of costs. Now, it is true that family law is generally, not always, but generally an hourly exercise. So it's fair for people to say that they're going to bill hourly and that it is not possible to predict how much the case will cost. And that's true because giving you some kind of number that you would then hang your hat on and plan on really isn't appropriate I tell people, if you bring me a big box of messy documents that are completely disorganized and you're not scanning them and providing them electronically and providing them in an organized way, or if we have to follow up with you dozens of times because you're not responding properly and giving us the right follow up, we give you a list of the documents we need and you're failing to provide that. All of the poor management on your end is going to lead to more costs on the firm's end. So, and those are not predictable at the beginning of the case. Sometimes that can be substantial depending on, your lack of responsiveness as a client. The other thing that can make things very much more expensive is the decision of your opposing, and I hate to even use that word, I'm trying to stop using that word, the decision of the other parent or your partner or spouse to make the case ugly. So if they hire somebody who likes to make a case ugly or is not as problem solving and just likes to be adversarial or thinks of him or herself as this gladiator attorney and is very toxic to the case and fails to be very collaborative with the other attorney, then you may end up with a lot more costs, significantly more costs. Is the person humble? Um, I would normally just kind of put this into the personality stuff about whether you like them, but I think humility goes a long way as a separate category for you to understand this person's posture and what this person is likely to be like when pressured or when approached by opposing counsel or when negotiating and things like that. So if the person is somebody who has sort of a lack of conceit, isn't self-aggrandizing, isn't like posturing as some, I'm the very, very best and, nobody else has a clue and I'm the only person you could hire. And if that person is disparaging of other attorneys in a way that is unprovoked or feels over the top, treat it like you would just talking to anybody else. Does just the person seem really arrogant? Do they have self-reflection of what they've done well and haven't done well? Ask them what they think they're really good at. Ask where they think their weaknesses are. And if the person is just a haughty person, you can probably judge accurately that they're going to act that way or even worse in the professional community and with the court. And courts hate it when lawyers act that way. Haughtiness is massively frowned upon, and you don't want that kind of person representing you. So watch out for humility. This leads directly into my next point, but the sixth point is the person reputable? I think that if a person is not humble, is not kind, is not compassionate, is not somebody who seeks to be amicable, then they likely don't have a very good reputation with the general family law community. And I think for every attorney you interview, ask them about the other people that who you're considering or who you've interviewed, and pay close attention to their reactions. That's a judge of humility if somebody says, oh, well, all these other people are not reputable. But with somebody who you are liking and you want to know what they think about these other people, most people are going to be cautious, but you'll be able to tell from their reaction. Watch their eyes, watch their shrugs, watch the way that they react to you. Is the person you're considering to be your attorney child focused? And this obviously only applies really if you have children, but if you do have children, it is the most important thing really, that the attorney is talking to you in a way that is sensitive and proactively engaging with you about how important the child issues are and the child well-being is. And again, I would want to sort of test the attorney to see if that attorney brings this up proactively, because really the attorney should, if you have children, at some point early on in your consultation, say that the most important thing is your children. And you want to hear terms like that we're looking at the best interests of the children. Best interest of the children is a term of art. It has a lot of factors involved, but they should tell you that that is what we're looking at. And that's true in almost every state. We should look at terms like effective co-parenting. You should hear them say things like, both parents are very likely to get parenting time. If you come in and say, I just want full custody of my children, the attorney should explain that that is unlikely, right? And that the courts are going to look at a parent's constitutional right to parent, and that the idea that you will be able to continue to have all the parenting time is not likely. Now, if there are safety issues, then that attorney should appropriately address those safety issues, know a lot about your areas of concern, which we talked about whether they know enough and have enough experience. But they should always be explaining that there are fundamental rights to parent for both parents, and that this is a very carefully handled area of law, and that an expectation that you will have all the parenting time is not appropriate.